I really like the idea of this movie being, like, holiday, like, "Bum, bum, 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 bum," and we have that whole, like, song playing through the opening credits, and it's just, like, joyful Christmas photos of, Buddy and James Caan and their family together, and then just hard cut to Buddy and Michael standing next to James Caan dead in a
Oh,
casket.
no.
It would be the most jarring thing. Welcome to Please Make This Movie, a podcast where we take a well-known movie, maybe sometime a TV show. We've never done that, and I don't foresee it in the immediate future. But then we turn it into a sequel or a prequel. I'm Zach,
I'm Storm.
I'm Nick.
and this week we're talking about a Christmas classic, Will Ferrell's Elf.
Old Elf.
Yeah, I am somebody who is not a giant Elf fan,
Yeah.
but
I prefer orcs.
Bingo bongo. I prefer
Yeah.
dwarves myself.
Yeah, I think they're called little people now, Storm, but whatever.
Oh no. I don't think I'm the biggest fan of this movie. I had never seen it in its entirety before this week.
Really?
And I can see the appeal big time based on kind of the look, the performances, the music, but the plot itself, there were so many elements that I wanted them to expand upon more. And I almost think because I'm used to seeing Will Ferrell in PG-13 movies or R-rated movies, I wanted the movie to have a little bit more grit to it.
would you say, so you brought up Will Ferrell, so I'll just say it. Would you say that this is his most popular movie?
I think because of the broad appeal, it's probably the role he will be recognized for the most, aside from Ron Burgundy.
Well,
That-
if you guys, I just watched. There's actually a Netflix documentary on Christmas movies, and one of them, it's like I can't remember. What
Is it
called.
the Christmas movies that made us?
Yeah, it's the first episode, Christmas movies that made us, because there was the toys that made us.
Yeah.
And the first one is Elf, so I was like, oh, I guess I'll watch that. 'Cause
Nice.
we're going over this movie. Not that informative, honestly.
Okay.
But it did talk about Will Ferrell's career and how he pretty much did nothing before that. Like, he was never a leading actor in anything.
Wow.
And he was filming Old School around the same time. And Old School is what kind of got him, like, super popular.
like a leading man breakout.
Yeah, like he was super well known. Like, I'm going streaking, and then like once Old School got super popular, there was actually conflicts with like the studio execs because they're like, I think they tried to make it grittier because they saw what a hit Old School was, and
Okay.
but like I think the way the movie frames is that Jon Favreau was like, this is going to be a like classic like Christmas movie. It's going to be like super like heartfelt. Like, we're not going to have like anything crazy going on. I think they wanted Chris Farley. I think that's what they said. They wanted Chris Farley to play the elf in it.
That makes a
That would
lot of
be
sense.
Such a different movie.
Yeah.
That would be an insane movie. I can't even imagine
It
that.
probably wouldn't have done as well, to be honest.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because Chris Farley was a much more physical comedian, and I feel like Will Ferrell's like stature, because I think he's a taller guy.
Yeah.
The fact that he's so tall and then as an elf is very funny, and I think that plays.
Yeah, his performance is definitely, in my opinion, a big part of, probably the biggest part of why the movie is so successful. I had a theory while I was watching it, and Nick, maybe you can vouch for whether or not this is true or not, but it felt almost like they had started filming this movie without a script, but more of an outline. And there were a lot of sequences that were just kind of goofy times where they were working through things in the moment. I know Will Ferrell has a improv background. Did they talk about that in that Netflix special at all?
I mean, it definitely had a full script. It started from the
Okay.
script, and like it was actually the screenwriter who was like selling it to people.
Oh,
And yeah, I mean, they talk about like how it just started from a few people that were nobodies and became this big hit.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like a big chunk. So like, it's this movie is popular because of Will Ferrell, but it also sucks because of Will Ferrell sometimes. Because I think it's really funny in the beginning, like all of the fish out of water, like him being an elf, but he's human. Like a
Mhm.
lot of those jokes hit really well in the beginning, but right in the middle, it's just Will Ferrell being Will Ferrell, and it's like, man, like I don't know, maybe I've just seen too many Will Ferrell movies, but like it's just like it's kind of like, yeah, all right,
Yeah,
this isn't that funny.
because of I guess the Will Ferrell of it all. I kept wanting like the fish out of water. I wanted to see like, have you ever seen the movie Death to Smoochie?
Yeah,
That is the movie that I kept wanting this movie to be. Where like the fish out of water humor with Smoochie, Edward Norton's character, you meet him in a methadone clinic, and like I wanted Buddy to enter into some really harsh real life scenarios where
The dark
yeah,
side.
where the humor comes from kind of the clash of the seriousness of the people there, and then his unbelievable innocence and happiness. But it's not that type of movie. It's a classic children or family friendly Christmas movie, so they would never do that.
no.
But because of Will Ferrell, I wanted that the whole time.
So in that documentary kind of series, did it talk about, were they specifically planning on Elf being like this Christmas classic? Like, is that what they foresaw when they were making it, or was this just going to be like a Christmas movie that like was popular but didn't have any real staying power? Because I think it's crazy that this movie is like almost 20 years old.
Yeah, no, it definitely like that. That was one of the. I think that's what John Favreau. That's why they really liked him because they made this like these are three reasons why John Favreau was like the perfect director for this movie. It was like I can't remember the first two one, but what the first two were, but the third one they like held to the end, and it was like he just wanted to make it a Christmas classic. Like that was his goal. Like when he read the script, he was just like, I foresee this being a really popular movie, and he was very correct. and he
The
and he like they did the combination between like those old claymation,
Yeah,
Bass Rankin, you know,
that
uh,
stuff. That's some of my favorite
videos.
stuff in the movie by far. That
Oh
in the
yeah,
setup with the Bass Rankin, like the snowman, the animals. I don't think the animals are specifically from any movie, but that almost led me to like. I got disappointed when he left that area and it doesn't come back because it was like, hold on, what if the like Rudolph or the Heat Miser or some of those guys? It's kind of implying that they would exist in that world as well.
yeah. Well, I mean, again, I don't want to talk about this documentary too much, but they talk about that, and they actually had a lot of. They almost had legal troubles with all of that, but they
Oh,
got their
okay.
lawyers to work around it because like literally, John Favreau like was just like, yeah, I want this to be part. I want these old, claymation cartoons to be a part of the like aesthetic of this movie.
That's really cool. It seems as if John Favreau is kind of that director who will fight for the like unified vision because he knows what the public reception is going to be, and like you need those claymation guys so that it will be a classic. It ties
He,
back to
oh
it,
yeah,
it's like cross generational because of that.
dude. Every day he becomes my favorite person in Hollywood.
I was just about to say that um so like I obviously knew he directed this, but watching it again reminded me that he directed it, and it's just like, what does this guy fail on? Because like he has had massive success after massive success. Like Elf is a Christmas classic that is 20 years later still being shown like on repeat. um he single-handedly like got the MCU going with Iron Man, and then the Mandalorian is just like saving the Star Wars universe
Yeah,
basically.
I don't want to like as much I guess smack as you could talk about like the Lion King or the Jungle Book. Those are still hugely popular grossing or hugely grossing popular movies. So even there, he's like he's like some sort of hero director.
Well, and they were at least big swings.
Oh,
Like you can see what he was going for, even if it was maybe a miss. Um,
yeah. I actually I
I
haven't
yeah.
seen the Lion King. I just know some of the reception from it. I didn't mind the Jungle Book. I did watch that one, and it was I really liked some of what I was seeing. Even
I mean, I haven't seen either, but I just like. I mean, I knew from the get go. It's just like, why remake the? I don't know. It was why remake the Lion King? Like, I think that's a bad move for a bad move artistically. Maybe not financially, but it's a bad move. Like, I don't know. It's just like everyone remembers this one movie. Why try to bring that back up. Like you almost, I don't know, you're like playing with the fate of nostalgia. Like you're playing with that. I don't know those.
I feel like that's almost Jon Favreau's brand, though. If you look at everything that he's kind of had success with, it's just like really getting into that nostalgia for people.
Yeah, but this is like a
And
complete remake.
partly because he's a fan himself, I think. I think The Lion King was pretty close to the original. There were like some slight variations. The Jungle Book was definitely way different, and I think that's maybe why The Lion King was so similar to the original. But we're talking about Elf. We'll come back to all this in the after show. So plug for the after show. Watch it. Comes out on Thursdays. Okay, so Elf.
Yes, Elf.
Do you guys like James Caan in this movie?
So one thing I was going to say, I think that it is Jon Favreau's directing that kind of pushes this. Actors like James Caan or Bob Newhart or Ed Asner as Santa. Even oh my God, I can't think of the guy's name, but who plays Santa Claus in the mall.
What's his name? Artie
Lang. Yeah. So all of these guys, they paint this interesting world that feels like an 80s movie or even older. And so while I think that James Caan is making up more of a plot in his head than is going on in the movie. He was the thing more than anything where it was like, this guy needs to have more going on in this film emotionally. Like he's not hitting a lot of very big points that should be here. But again, it's because of family movie. So I guess I do like him, but I wanted so much more.
Again, going back to that documentary, they talk about how he's an infamously bad actor to work with, supposedly.
Oh shit.
And supposedly made some speech like, "I'm Jimmy the Dream. Like, don't worry. If you hear the rumors about me, I'm not that bad." But apparently, like, I don't know, he actually had a lot of conflict with Will Ferrell and his like improvising. Like,
okay,
what was the story? Like, there was the scene where like he tickles him. Like, tickle fight, like, and Will Ferrell kept wanting to do it again, and Caan was like really pissed about it. Like, he was just like, "No, we're done."
Wow.
Well, and I feel like James Caan is almost one of those, like, not old Hollywood, but he's one of those older actors that is very much like not fun. Like it's a job for him. It's not like, oh, I can't believe I'm living this dream. And so somebody like Will Ferrell, who I imagine his personality while working is very similar to Buddy the Elf, would probably get on his nerves.
Yeah. But like, I mean, let's be real here. Will Ferrell was a star of that movie, so it's like, yeah, sure, you played Sonny Corleone, but go fuck yourself. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. He definitely did seem pretty weak throughout. Like, I don't know. He. I felt like he, like, at points, like especially towards the end, he was trying to play emotional with like Buddy, but like he didn't seem like it was capable. Like he was capable of it.
Man, I kept wanting him to play angry so bad.
Oh, really?
Like through so much of the movie. The plot line with so Buddy's birth mother is deceased, and there's kind of some implications through not the script but through the cinematography that Walter, James Caan's character, is kind of hung up on the death of Susan, his first wife, Buddy's mother, but they do not talk about it together at all. And I thought like that's this huge emotional through line that could be in the movie. Buddy being like, "What about my birth mother?" and him being like, "Well, yeah, I'm secretly still in love with her." In fact, I kind of have this in my pitch. I wanted him to get mad at Buddy, to have this resentment towards him and actually get angry and start yelling at him, being like the gangster movie actor that he is, being Sonny from The Godfather. But it doesn't really happen. It kind of seems like he almost like maybe is doing a bad job. And
going back to the documentary, sorry, the guy who wrote the script, I don't remember who the screenwriter was, but it's his whole thing is like dad died when he was young, so the whole like theme of or message of the movie was like, I don't know, like him meeting his father again, and that was like the whole thing is just like a rekindling relationship with one's father. So, like, I think that's why the mother wasn't involved, because it was actually about the relationship between him and his dad, not anything else.
I see. It honestly, it did feel a little bit awkward, but but that makes sense now that you're saying it. I guess I wanted something. They have the scene where Walter's looking through his old yearbook and he sees the picture with them where he's playing the guitar and they're like holding each other. And it was touching for that moment. And I guess I just found myself throughout the whole movie being like, is that going to come back? And it does not, but it makes sense if the writer's intention was to have, the most important thing in the movie is the reunion between the father and son.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it was just something to explain why he wasn't with them and why he was in the North Pole and was like adopted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this a straight pregnant mother who died had him, so no one. Because like, how do you explain a missing child? I don't know. I feel like that was kind of a difficult plot point to write without that scenario being in there. But
yeah.
To go off of that, I think something maybe I overlooked until recently. His name Buddy comes from his brand of diapers, Little Buddy Diapers. So his name on the North Pole is literally Buddy Diapers. Like they think it's his name. Like I think that is such an underappreciated thing.
Did they ever mention his last name is Diapers? I mean, I guess you can imply
they don't, but yeah, I would assume that's what, because they call him Buddy after reading Little Buddy Diapers. And then the other thing that I think is a very underappreciated line, it comes from Artie Lang. When Will Ferrell is questioning him about being the real Santa Claus, he says, "What song did I sing to you on your birthday last year?" And he goes, "Happy birthday!" And it's just like, of course. But it's just such a funny line to me that I don't know. I guess I never really appreciated the comedy of it.
Yeah. I mean, I laughed. Like again, I laughed more in the beginning. But there's like a good stretch in the middle. Like I don't know. I enjoyed. One of the things that was weird to me was when they were in the mail room, and there's that dude that Buddy was becoming friends with.
The like Russian guy?
Yeah, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm like 26 years old, and I'm doing this. I'm like, 26 years old?
like 60-year-old man. Yeah.
You're like, your jowls are huge. Like, what are you talking? You're not like that must have been some joke they made there. I don't know.
I thought that so that scene cracked me up because they get drunk. He drinks, but then it's like them laying on piles of mail, and there's reggae music playing. So, which is kind of, those are like them laying down and being kind of spacey is more in line with like a stoner scene, like smoking weed. But it was clear that they were drinking. I thought it was a real funny little, I don't know, that was more in line with the tone that I wanted the movie to be. But again, it's a children's movie, so they can't push that too hard.
The other thing I like is the manager at is it Gimbals, Faison Love,
yes,
being super worried that somebody is like poaching his job because they decorated.
Oh yeah,
and he knew nothing about it. Like I like that character of just like the manager of the store who is definitely like celebrating Christmas, but also has like very strict rules as to how it's going to be celebrated.
Yeah,
that was originally, again, learned from this little docu-series on Netflix. That was supposed to be Wanda Sykes, but she bailed out at the last minute. And in the movie, he's wearing Wanda's name badge because they didn't have enough time to like correct it, and he insisted that he wore her badge that said Wanda on it. I thought that was funny. Nice, that is funny. Fact.
I was questioning why that manager, Faison Love's character, why he wouldn't have immediately thought that Buddy was the guy gunning for his job. Like this employee shows up who he doesn't know, and then all of a sudden this change happens to the store overnight, like the day after Buddy shows up, and he doesn't. I don't know. I was almost expecting. Again, I'd never seen the movie until this week. I thought he was going to pull him aside and be like, "Hey, man. Did you do this? Are you trying to take my job?" But it didn't happen.
Well, and it also seems like he just gets to start working there.
Yeah.
And no one ever is like, "Hey, who are you?" He just like shows up, and because he's dressed as an elf, they're just like, "Well, of course you work here." And even the manager just like doesn't really question it.
Yeah, and Also, not related to anything. Zoe Deschanel's character is her name's Jovi.
Yep.
Where did they
Yeah.
pull that name out of?
That's the other thing that's the thing that bothers me. It's just
Jovi.
like, why does her name have to be Jovi? Like, I'm sure there's a meaning behind it or something. Maybe there's not, but it's a very unique, weird name.
Are there any lines of dialogue that address that? Like, is
No.
any, but nobody questions it or anything? Well, okay, I guess. I don't know. My name's Storm, so I can't. But I'll say I get questions about that every single time I've ever said it in my whole life.
Well, and I feel
Oh,
like
dude,
she
sorry.
would constantly, in the real world, just be like, "Hi, I'm Jovi." Jody? No, Jovi.
Exactly. Yeah.
Storm. I met someone through work named Storm, by the way.
That's amazing. In
Yeah.
Bloomington?
It was over the phones.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, man, I got a buddy named Storm, and I think he hates it.
Well, I don't hate it. It's very memorable. I just don't like having to have the follow-up conversation because sometimes it does feel a little
super annoying
like
because you're just like, oh god,
Yeah.
all right, again and again. Oh, Storm. Oh yeah, is it really a real name Storm? You're like,
Yep.
I want to kill you.
That's exactly how it goes. That's
Anyway,
it was yeah. But yeah, so
Okay, so-
Jovi.
Let's talk about some like cornerstone, touchstone pieces that need to exist in an Elf sequel. Obviously, we have Buddy the Elf, and then it's got to be a Christmas movie.
that's probably it.
I think so.
Yeah, that's really all I thought as well. I like the idea of the like the elves, the way the North Pole world exists and has that
Buzz Rankin style,
yeah, that claymation style. But that's going to be consistent no matter what. It's a sequel to the movie. So I really think all it is like Will Ferrell's there as Buddy, and it's a Christmas movie.
I think there needs to be some closure to the storyline with James Caan of just like a where are they now as far as their relationship.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think the movie needs to be about that. I think there just needs to be enough information to know if they are still speaking to each other or if like they're close or what that relationship has turned into.
It was weird again because with James Caan there was the most kind of like dramatic stuff that could have been going on. I thought like he could have tension with his wife because he still has feelings for this woman who he was in love with back in high school. His son, there's tension because he's not paying as much attention to him because he's hyper focused on his career. And then with Buddy, there's like a resentment of like, no, now I got to take care of you, and you represent this woman who I still love, who's dead. So I would like to address all of those things if possible in a sequel.
James Caan tension.
Alrighty, well, do you want to start with
and then the last thing, I had one more. The movie left off with Buddy as a successful children's author, correct?
Yeah.
And he and Jovi were married and had a child?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, they had a baby girl at the end that they take to the North Pole to visit Bob.
It is a girl?
I looked that up on Wikipedia to make sure.
I messed that up.
Okay. I definitely messed that up too. Married with child, famous author.
I mean, could you tell in the movie that it was a girl? Because I could.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any dialogue that supports that. It's just what it said on the write up online, but that could be wrong. And also, that's something that could be changed. It's been long enough that I feel like they could totally get away with swapping the gender of the child.
Yeah, especially if it is not obviously stated. All right, so if we have nothing else, let's go ahead and get into pitches for this movie then.
For sure.
So I do not have a complete... Oh my gosh, we completely forgot to talk about Peter Dinklage.
Yeah. I do have Miles Finch. Is that his name?
Yes.
I have a little subplot of him coming back. I loved Peter Dinklage. I wanted him to be in the movie more. And I was shocked that he even showed up. I recognized his voice on the phone right away. And I don't know.
Well, I know he like typically tries to not do the roles where he plays a little person because he's a little person.
Well, shit,
But
dude. I feel like I've seen him do that multiple times now and have like jokes against him. Like when I think back to like Chronicles of Narnia,
oh
which was one
yeah,
of the first things I remember seeing him in. The second one, Prince Caspian. There's like a lot of dwarf jokes, because he literally is like the only named character dwarf. Not to go off of that joke you made right at the beginning, but it kind of that is the joke, like the little person dwarf joke. But I mean, yeah, in other roles, it seems like Peter Dinklage is a more serious actor
Mhm.
and is avoiding that. But I'll also say he's for sure the most famous little person actor of the era.
Oh, and yeah, by far. Um, and I think it's weird to see him now in that role after seeing him in Game of Thrones as like a very
Yeah.
serious
I
character.
always forget that he's American. I expect I naturally, I guess from Game of Thrones I just assume that he's British and has a British accent, but then in pretty much everything else he's in, he's American. Okay, one of the X-Men's, he's in one of the X-Men movies.
Mhm.
Um,
Days of Future Past, I believe.
yes,
plays the Beast.
he plays the Beast. He plays
No, he's like the bad
yeah,
guy. I
he's
don't
a
know.
politician he's like the guy who starts the Sentinel
Yeah, I know.
program.
I don't remember now. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I thought he was good. Did you guys have any problem with him in the film?
No, no.
No, I kind of what you said already. Thought that the one thing that doesn't hold up in this movie, and I am sure has been like super problematic for um, little people, is the "You're an angry elf" line. Um, because anytime I've ever like seen anybody short get upset, I have heard that been said. So I can only imagine um, that specific line. Um, but that's the only thing I think in this movie that is sticking out to me as something that did not age well.
Yeah, it's weird because it kind of feels like the whole Miles Finch subplot in Elf is setting up that joke, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Um, all right, so let's get into pitches now that we got to talk a little bit about Peter Dinklage. Um, so here's my idea, and I was telling Nick before we started recording that I don't know for certain, but I think my idea might already exist. And if it does, it is in the form of one of the Santa Claus movies, like Santa Claus 2 or Santa Claus 3.
Huh.
I don't know what those movies are about, but this could possibly be what the one of those is about. So we pick up, I believe Elf was made 17 years ago. So we pick up in like modern day. Um, Buddy, Jovi are married. Buddy is a successful author. Is kind of like he's super into Christmas, but he is not the Buddy the elf that we're left with. He is definitely kind of assimilated to um, our society, and so some of those elf tendencies are suppressed. And he's definitely like super into Christmas more so than a normal person, but does not stick out as somebody who like was raised by elves. Um, I had a son, but we'll just go ahead and say it's a daughter because it doesn't matter that much for this pitch, who basically starts to not believe in Santa Claus as a 17-year-old probably would. And over the dinner table or something, Buddy makes a comment about like, well, what do you want from Santa this year? And this old teenage daughter is like, why are you like, how long do we have to do this? I'm 17. Santa's not real. And this kind of prompts Buddy to take Jovi and his daughter to the North Pole to meet the real Santa Claus. He's like, okay, we're gonna go visit my stepdad, or I don't know what he refers to Bob Newhart as. And they go to the North Pole, and it is just Buddy and his family going to the North Pole. We could do some of that claymation, and this daughter realizing like, holy shit, Santa Claus exists. While there, um, Santa Claus basically pulls Buddy aside and says, like, hey, I'm retiring. Um, an elf can't take my position because they're elves. Usually I grant it to the human with the most Christmas spirit. And you literally grew up here. You know this place like the back of your hand. And he asks Buddy if he wants to become Santa Claus. And then the movie is just about kind of Buddy becoming Santa Claus and his daughter realizing like Santa Claus does exist. And now Santa Claus is her dad. And that's kind of where we leave off with Buddy, Jovi, and this daughter now living in the North Pole, preparing to go off on Christmas Eve.
Nice. I actually, so regardless of, I know you said maybe that that's similar to the Santa Claus movies, but I don't think they're making any more of those. And I think we've had enough time pass that kind of plot would be welcome. That's of a human being taking over for Santa. I don't know. That sounds like a totally plausible and realistic sequel to Elf, with Will Ferrell being fish out of water again, but now he's fish out of water as Santa.
That makes sense. I never thought of him being able to become like Santa. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I was wondering. I even looked it up because I wasn't sure if Ed Asner or Bob Newhart were still alive.
They're both still alive, and Ed Asner is still working.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude. I love the role that I know him from the most is Up. But I think he's a very iconic and interesting character actor.
All right, so Nick, let's hear what you got.
Yeah. So, in this movie, I have. I didn't even check if they were alive. The actors were alive or not. I just wanted them not to be the characters not to be alive in the movie. So both Papa Elf and Walter have passed away. I don't want it to happen at the same time because that would be weird. But maybe one of them has already passed and they acknowledge it, and it's like Will Ferrell and Michael at the funeral of Walter, and Will Ferrell, Buddy has like a little breakdown because both of his all of his parents are dead first off, but he's like fatherless and like he's no longer super happy. And after the first movie, they've maybe there can be a little bit of preface to this before Walter dies. Maybe you can show all of them as like a whole family, enjoying Christmas, and they're all having like a grand old time. And it's like ever since Walter got the Christmas spirit back, it's been a very important holiday to them. And now Will Ferrell, Buddy, is devastated now that he's fatherless, and this triggers him to go on an emotional breakdown, like a funny Will Ferrell emotional breakdown through a serious event. So in this movie, obviously they're married. Jovi and Buddy are married. They have a kid, son, daughter, whatever. I guess it doesn't really matter. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, so he has like an emotional freak out. He's like breaking down. This can be depicted, however, but he gets approached during this breakdown on one of his weakest moments by a South Pole elf named Hector. So, speaking of Peter Dinklage, there's a line where he's like, "You're like a South Pole elf," because he was like so angry. And that gave me the idea of like, well, what if there are South Pole elves and they are anti-Christmas elves? Like they I don't know, there was some sort of split off population of elves that for whatever reason just were not allowed to make toys because of, I don't know, we can put in any sort of reason. Like they weren't good enough, they didn't have enough Christmas spirit, they weren't hard workers, what have you. And their whole goal is to diminish the Christmas spirit. And kind of be like the anti-Santa Claus. So this elf named Hector kind of convinces Will Ferrell to join the dark side, more or less, and they start, just doing weird, wacky antics around New York, sabotaging Christmas spirit. Like Will Ferrell's going around, like he tells his kid I didn't name him. We told this kid, he's like, Santa isn't real. And the kid's like, dude, we had Santa over for dinner last month. Like, what the heck are you talking about, man? Like, it's like he's totally met Santa before. So stuff like that. He's just going around. I didn't think of any funny little jokes, but I'm sure with Will Ferrell, he can come up with weird things he can do. And then eventually they go to the South Pole where they plan to sabotage Christmas this year so no one gets presents. And they like have a plan where they go to the North Pole. They're gonna like sabotage the toy factory, tinker with like Santa's engines, and they need Buddy to do it. That's why Hector recruited Buddy, because like they found out that he knows how to work the engines, and Pop Elf taught him how to do that. That's kind of it. The way it kind of ends is, the story kind of mainly follows Jovi, Michael, who's the who's what would you call stepbrother, Buddy, half brother, half brother of Buddy, and his son, where they go try to find Will Ferrell and rejuvenate his Christmas spirit. In this climax, where they finally give Buddy a change of heart, he realizes he has this like nice emotional change of heart, because after the sabotage is complete, he changes his mind, and even though he is now fatherless, he has this like connection with his son that like even though I don't have this Christmas connection with my father anymore, it's important to share it with his son, just like he did with both of his parents, Pop Elf and Walter, post first movie. And they do some crazy antics where they like untie Santa, because I guess Santa was tied up. I don't know, maybe they fix all the toys, get rid of Hector and his evil elves, and deliver the presents on Christmas and save the day. It's kind of easy to fill in all that stuff, but that's kind of the gist of what I got. Oh, nice. And I'll cast one person now, because I doubt Hector is in any of your movies.
Okay.
Definitely probably couldn't be in the movie because of previous headlines, but I think Aziz Ansari would be great.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it, but I think, I don't know if Aziz Ansari definitely addressed head on his situation in his most recent stand-up, and I think it did kind of negate, like he did that as gracefully as one could. It was hella awkward in the special, but so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That sounds totally funny, and Aziz Ansari definitely fits the bill for an elf.
Oh yeah, it's like, come on, Will, like, come on, buddy.
Yeah, now that you said that, I'm not going to be able to picture anyone else.
Yeah, I have some other elves in my pitch, but I love this idea because they mention it in the OG movie that there's other elf factions, kind of that there's like 3 different lives for an elf, but he does say that South Pole elf thing, and so it kind of raises this question about like how broad is this fantasy world and how far do they reach. I don't know. I love that. I always love adding additional fantasy aspects.
And then that's where they can amp up the claymation.
Yeah, hell yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I really like the idea of this movie being like holiday, like bump 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 bump. And we have that whole like song playing through the opening credits, and it's just like joyful Christmas photos of Buddy and James Caan and their family together, and then just hard cut to Buddy and Michael standing next to James Caan dead in a casket.
Oh, no.
It would be the most jarring thing.
You could play that for comedy and have that be pretty funny, because James, like we said at the beginning, James Caan kind of half-assing it in the first one, so maybe there's a joke there about like get him out right away.
So, all right, well, I'm done with that. Storm, you
nice.
want to?
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, I love the South Pole elves. So I'm gonna be thinking about Aziz Ansari as well as I talk about mine. But so my film is set 10 years later. It's Christmas time, and Walter reveals that the publishing company is once again at risk of going under because he did not do anything. He didn't change his kind of naughty ways. Once Buddy's book Elf became successful, he just leaned on the success of Elf for 10 years. And now the book is not selling as well. And he comes to Buddy, who hasn't written another book. And he tells him, I need you to write a sequel to Elf. But Buddy has She's kind of just been working for Walter and raising a family, working at Gimbels. In my movie, Jovi is now the manager of Gimbels. They have a 10-year-old daughter. But Buddy decides that he's got to go on some sort of adventure to write a book. He doesn't know what to talk about exactly, so he remembers that Bob Newhart had told him that there were other elves out there. There were, if you're an elf, you could choose to be a cobbler or an elf that sneaks into a cobbler's shop at night, or you can be an elf that makes cookies. So I have this idea that there are other factions of elves called the cobblers and the keeblers. And Buddy goes looking for both the cobblers and the keeblers to get stories for his book, like whatever, maybe mythology, or maybe there's other heroes like Buddy that came out of these groups. So him and Michael go off on this adventure together. And I had this really dumb idea. For some reason, I kept calling Michael Young Thug while I was watching the original movie.
He's got the big coats.
Yeah. And so I had this idea that Michael maybe became a rapper, but that is too dumb. That we shouldn't include that. But it would be funny to think about, like a 10-year-older guy, especially with the actor I have in mind as older Michael. But we'll talk about that in casting. So Buddy goes to find these other groups of elves, the Keeblers and the Cobblers. At the same time, Buddy's also interested in learning more about his birth mother, Susan Wells. So there's a scene where he's at the graveyard and it's snowing, and James Caan, Walter, comes to him and kind of reveals that he always blamed the child a little bit. Or I'm sorry, he didn't know about the child, so he blames Buddy now. So he's having this weird kind of later in life resentment towards his adult son, even though they've already rekindled. He has this pent up resentment. Walter and Emily, Walter's wife, are having tension because Walter secretly is still in love with Susan, his high school lover. And there's also a weird subplot. I had the idea of Miles Finch is pressuring the publishing company because they're kind of going under, and he's like, hey, I have a book, and my book is called The Untold True Story of Elf, but it's not true. It's a defamation piece that he wrote because he's pissed at Buddy for making that joke about him in the first one. So he wrote this book that's like an anti-elf, but it says that Buddy's like this real piece of shit anti-Christmas guy, and that he's intolerant of little people. So he's telling Walter like, yeah, you gotta do this, man. Like, come out with my book, and you'll get, you'll save your company. And so Walter's like, hey, Buddy, if you don't write Elf 2, I'm gonna have to publish Miles's crazy book that is gonna make me have to fire you. So there's that story going on, and then Buddy visits the Keeblers and Cobblers, who both reveal that, like, hey, the Christmas time elves like to think that we're not as busy during Christmas time, but Christmas is the busiest time for cookie making and for cobbling as well. So we don't have time to entertain this, and it kind of gets brushed over a little bit, and it's just these little mini side adventures. And that's kind of all I had. Like, the main plot would be Buddy learning about these other elves, but also learning more about his mother, and kind of, I think ultimately it would just have to be an adventure, like kind of like Nick, you said about him learning to share Christmas with his child. And he learns that this grand adventure is less important than the small adventure you have with your family. But then there's all these weird subplots of Miles Finch versus the publishing company, Jovi and the daughter working at Gimbels around Christmas time. I have this idea of like a 10-year-old little girl being a little elf and causing some mayhem. And honestly, that is it.
All right.
Okay. I really like the Miles Finch defamation piece of Buddy.
I like that
because
a lot too.
It's like a children's book publishing company.
Yeah.
So writing that as a children's book of this guy's an asshole.
Yeah, it's literally the anti-elf. It would be called The Untold True Story of Elf, but it looks like a children's book, like cartoon characters and whatnot, animated, like an
illustrator
involved.
Talking about his height privilege.
Yeah.
So I have an idea of how we can tie them, I think, all three together.
Yeah.
So I really like Walter dying right at the very beginning.
Yes.
And then like that's rough. And maybe we have like a scene or something where like clearly Will Ferrell's affected by that. It could be maybe with Michael and Walter's wife. And she basically talks a little bit about Susan Wells, and maybe we could get some of the Susan Wells stuff there. Then then Buddy finds out Papa Elf has died, and he goes to the North Pole for Papa Elf's funeral. And he just can't handle the second loss so soon, so he runs away. He runs away into the North Pole where there's all this claymation. He talks to some people. One of them maybe suggests to go talk to some of the other elves because he talks about how like he's never really fit in with the Christmas elves. So he goes and he talks to the Keeblers that live. I don't know where we'd put them. And then they say like they talk to him. He like doesn't fit in there because all he cares about is like sugar and stuff. And they're like, well, there's more to cookies than sugar. And he's just like way overzealous and like underbake stuff because he won't leave it in the oven. Like he's trying to become a Keebler elf, and he just and they're like, go check out the cobblers. Like they tell him like sneak into this place after they close. Maybe we could have him even going into like for a comedy angle, going into a shoe store like Reebok or like a Foot Locker, and like the security of a mall just like catches him and he runs away. But then he does talk to the cobblers, doesn't really fit in with them, and this journey just takes him all the way to the South Pole where he's looking for a place to fit in.
Can I interject here? So what if he goes to what's his last name? Finch, Peter Dinklage character.
Finch, yeah, Miles Finch.
Yeah, Miles Finch. What if he goes to Miles Finch and he's like, "Hey, Miles, I was wondering if you could introduce me to the South Pole elves." Like he still thinks.
Oh no,
he's one of the South Pole. But what if he actually is?
Oh god damn it! yeah.
That doesn't have to be the case, but I like the idea of him going to him, and then like that instincts even more hatred for Miles to.
It could be he goes to Miles Finch to say like, "Why don't you introduce me to the South Pole elves?" And Miles Finch, thinking like this guy's an asshole, like has him book a flight to the South Pole of like, "Fine, I'm going to send you to the South Pole." And so that's how he gets to the South Pole. And then while he's there, he just stumbles upon Aziz Ansari.
and then meanwhile, Miles writes his anti-elf book.
Yeah, I feel like we could have him open a document and type out like the title, and then that's all we see of it. We don't know anything about it. Maybe we see like later in the movie like a news broadcast about how the reception of that piece is just like they can't believe a children's author would write such a graphic. Like
we literally were talking about how the only problematic thing about the first movie was the Peter Dinklage joke, and this whole movie is turning out to be based around that single joke. That's great.
No,
I think it's funny.
Because Peter Dinklage sends him to the South Pole not because he actually is a South Pole elf, because he thinks like South Pole elf are really funny asshole. I'm going to send you to the South Pole because he thinks there's no elves. Peter Dinklage doesn't know that Buddy's an actual elf. And so basically while Buddy is with the South Pole elves, that's kind of where my connection stops. I thought maybe we could have him sabotaging Christmas, or possibly he gets a call, like they're trying to sabotage Christmas and he gets a call from Jovi of like, "Buddy, we need your help. Santa Claus, it like fell out of the sleigh or something. He's not gonna be able to do it." And then he has to basically become Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And then I thought there could be a through story of the daughter doesn't believe Santa Claus is real. When Buddy leaves, he says he's going to the North Pole, and the daughter's like, why are you so weird? And then towards the end of the movie, he's in the sleigh and he knocks on her window and he's like, "It's me. I'm Santa now." And it's like super excited. And the daughter is like, "Oh."
That's great. I love that. I love like the final. I'll say I don't think the final act of Elf there. I was kind of disappointed, I guess, with the climax, Santa's sleigh breaking down, and then them needing the power of like belief in Christmas, or like Christmas spirit will make the sled fly. I love the idea of Buddy having to finish Santa's trip, or because Santa's gone down.
I think the through line in Elf is kind of that he's looking for like a father figure. And I think that the kind of takeaway from ours is that he doesn't need a father figure anymore because he is a father.
Wow. Okay, that's good. And a very solid continuation of that original theme.
Yeah.
It's mature.
Nice.
I want there to be parts with the other elves, like the Keeblers and the Cobblers, where they're telling him specifically, like, hey, do you know how many cookies people eat around Christmas? Like, this isn't a joke. Every house Santa goes to, he's got to eat a cookie. Where do you think those cookies come from? That sort of thing. Or like, same thing with the Cobblers. It's funnier with the Cobblers because, I'm not even sure I understand that reference of like the Cobbler elves. I don't know exactly what tale that comes from.
I don't even know what the
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know if it's called just the cobbler and the elves. It's the guy. A cobbler is poor. He leaves out like shoe leather because he's going to finish making the shoes in the morning. It's his last bit of leather that he could buy, and these elves come and make these shoes, and they're like super fine, and they sell the next day for double what his shoes normally sell for. And he just repeats this process over and over until he becomes a very prosperous business.
Okay.
And like one night he watches the elves, and it's a weird.
Well, I like the subversion of that being that the cobbler elves are the reason that there are shoes at like Foot Locker.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of and they also are insisting that like Christmas is the busiest time for shoe sales of the whole year, and we can't have you messing around here trying to fit in and messing up our operation because we got work to do. But that isn't even. I don't think shoes are something that people buy at Christmas time necessarily.
So I like the joke of Christmas is the busiest time because people have shoes. They also have boots that they have to buy. They have like the cobblers are so grasping for relevance of like we're the most important, but they're clearly not.
I have a good idea, or I have an idea, a casting choice for the leader of each of these factions of elves, and based on what we've described, I think it would be really funny. The guy I have in mind.
I really like the idea too of in the like Foot Locker cobbler elves. When they come out, they like bring machinery, and it's like they're not making the shoes. They just bring like an assembly line out and setting it all up and then processing shoes.
Oh man, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, well, I think we pretty much have the movie.
Yeah,
it was pretty quick. Let me see.
Let's talk a little bit more about the South Pole elves and flesh them out a little bit more, because I know, Nick, you talked about it in your pitch, but basically they're anti-Christmas. I think we could get Buddy working with them to sabotage Christmas, but I feel like once he realizes Christmas isn't going to happen,
they should have like banners up around. Like I imagine them working in like an office building. Like they're angry, but they're also like really dry and boring and like the opposite of fun and Christmas joy. Like they're always angry and mad and frustrated. Like maybe instead of like Christmas trees around, they just have happy holiday signs.
Nice.
Like there's like happy holidays, or not even happy holidays, because like that,
like unhappy holidays.
Unhappy holidays, yeah, because they're just so pissed. What else could they do? Because like, because it's literally just that line, and they don't mention them. Like I want to, maybe they're like not supposed to be mentioned, because I want them to be like exiles, like they were maybe once part of the North Pole, but like maybe what's something maybe related to our theme of fatherhood. Maybe Papa Elf did have a son. No, Hector does not look like Bob Newhart's, or Aziz Ansari does not look like Bob Newhart's son. But maybe
what if it's kind of like this is going to be weird, but like God and Satan, Lucifer was like, the greatest of the angels. What if it's like the greatest of the elves thought eventually he would become Santa, and Santa is like, hold on, I'm gonna be Santa forever. Elves can't replace me.
You're an elf.
Yeah,
like elves can't be Santa.
And so that elf tried to rise up, and Santa banished him to the South Pole. Is like, okay, and the elves that followed him. I think it'd even be funny if his name was Hector, and Hector is a descendant of the original Hector who got them banished to the South Pole, because that's such a strange name for an elf.
I don't know. It sounds right though.
Hector. It does sound right. Yeah.
I also like so when Jovi calls and says like Santa can't make it, um, she specifically says like there's not going to be a Santa Claus this year, and then we cut like flashback to the daughter saying Santa Claus isn't real, and then that's like the push to get him to like drop everything. And I don't know how he gets from the South Pole to the North Pole like super fast.
Yeah.
But or it could be like Santa Claus just can't continue to fly by himself, so Buddy has to fly with him so he can swing by and pick him up in the South Pole. And then we could have some cool like South Pole traps or like cannons that they're trying to fire, like anti-sleigh cannons that they're trying to fire off at him as he flies out.
It's hard to think of something that's like anti-Christmas. Like, what's the opposite of a candy cane? Like, without thinking of like just another religion. And obviously, you can't like have like Jewish.
Yeah, you don't want to just
or,
other religions.
Yeah, so like it's like what is opposite of Christmas that's not religious? Aside from things that are not joyful and boring.
Well, I mean, the hilarious idea of having it be like anti-Christmas cannons. I like that idea a lot. It makes me think of Nightmare Before Christmas, when Jack Skellington becomes Santa, and they literally shoot him out of the sky because they can tell, like people can tell that it's not Santa, and so the anti-Christmas is real life violence.
So how about this? How about the South Pole elves? The reason they went off on their own was because one of them wanted to become Santa Claus and obviously was told not to, but they also think it's like fucked up that Christmas is just for Christian people. Like, why can't everybody have Christmas? And like, that's the one thing, like they're trying to stop Christmas because like, if everybody can't have it, then nobody can have it.
I think it's weird to bring in the Christian part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just have this idea that Buddy is like giving every kid presents, regardless of whether or not they believe in Santa Claus, which would be like a cool thing, I think. But yeah, that might be going a little too far.
I don't know. I do like the idea of maybe not specifically mentioning the religion, but having it be like. Maybe it's why is Christmas only one day a year? Why can't we have Christmas all the time? Maybe something like that.
Like I think we could legitimately say, why can't everybody have Christmas? Did you know there's people who don't get presents from Santa?
So then, what I think about immediately there is like, how is that not the correct? Like, how are they not morally in the right then?
Oh, I think that's what we should have.
Okay.
The South Pole elves are.
So it's conflicted.
The North Pole elves aren't necessarily morally in the wrong.
Okay.
But the South Pole elves are just like more in the right.
They have a good point. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I was thinking they could be like. Well, I like the whole idea of it all. It's all based off of some like let's say Hector's the elf that wanted to be Santa, and maybe he says he hates Christmas, but really he's just disappointed that, a fatherly figure to him, like Santa, denied him like something that he really wanted. And then towards the end, the way Buddy saves Christmas is by mending things between Santa and Hector, and the South Pole elves get invited up. Like the South Pole elves could have been like they could have done something really specific in Christmas. Like, what's like an old Christmas tradition that doesn't happen anymore? That's kind of hard to think of. There's got to be something, but
so there's an old timey German tradition. It's not Christmas, but it's in December of leaving your shoes out for like Saint Nicholas. And I don't know if people do that anymore at all. Or like the pickle in the Christmas tree. Do you guys do that or know anyone?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. You don't sound like an insane person.
Okay, cool.
What if when Buddy either becomes Santa or goes with Santa Claus, he takes Hector with him, and so one of the South Pole elves does get to more or less become Santa Claus one time?
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. I know this is
I don't-
not something that should happen, but what if the elves are very Christian and are pissed that Santa is the center of Christmas and it's not, Jesus Christ?
Yes, there. It is the like a super devout follower of their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and
Oh man.
just can't figure out why. Yeah,
Yeah.
We
Uh,
need God back in Christmas.
That's the movie I want,
right.
but it's not the movie that would happen.
No, I don't think that movie plays. I don't think that movie plays. So I think we have it pretty much figured out,
Yeah.
except maybe like some bits and pieces at the end. Do we want to go ahead and get into casting then?
I would
Yeah.
like to talk about some of the casting.
Okay. So as far as my stuff, I did cast a son.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm assuming we're keeping Will Ferrell, obviously. We'll keep James Caan. We'll keep. I feel like Ed Asner is almost too old to be Santa, but I don't think we can change Santa
I
Claus.
loved him as Santa, and I was trying to think if you guys have other Santa ideas, I would love to hear them because I was really kind of racking my brain about like who else could do this and have the same old guy vibes that Ed Asner had in
So-
the original.
We can't do this because he's dead. But I thought it'd be super funny if Santa Claus, the real Santa Claus, was just Artie Lang now, and it was never addressed.
Nice.
But he died like almost 10 years ago. So
Wait, no, he didn't. Did he?
Artie Lang died in 2009.
He was on.
Oh wait, no.
He,
Wait a
he was on Joe
I was looking at
Rogan
Matt TV.
less than a year. Like,
I was looking at when he was on Matt TV. My bad. He's alive. We could do that.
Wow. We all are
I
like
looked at the
scrambling to
first
look
date.
up Artie Lang.
I looked at the first date and I was like 1995. That doesn't seem right. Hold on. And then I realized the dates I was looking at was 1995 to 2009, which is when he was on Mad TV, not his actual life.
I loved Artie Lang as fake Santa. I did recast a mall Santa because there's another actor that I wanted it to be under that beard and costume. I'll just go ahead and say it. I want Jack Black to be a mall Santa in Elf 2.
oh yeah.
He's got the beard now. Like,
Yeah.
I like Jack Black a lot, somehow working his way. Like, I like Jack Black being the Santa Claus figure of the South Pole elves almost.
Oh my god, he's an elf. He's a South Pole elf, but he's their leader.
Yeah.
I had a couple. So, well, hold on. We should probably talk about Michael or
Okay.
Buddy's child.
Yeah, I didn't cast anyone for Buddy's child, but for Michael,
So I had an idea for somebody. Let me double check who it was, because I can't remember that person's name
for
right now.
Michael or
So
Buddy's kid.
Go ahead and talk about Michael
Okay.
right now, because I did not cast anybody for Michael.
Nick, you
I-
go. Yeah, go ahead because
I-
you start.
Yeah, I chose Jonah Hill.
Nice. That's a good choice, and it's hilarious because I chose Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who starred with Jonah Hill in the movie that both of them got started in, Superbad.
Oh, dang! All right.
Christopher Mintz-Plasse is McLovin.
Yeah.
But in my idea was that he is like a rapper.
That's pretty ridiculous.
But I mean, Jonah Hill is the more. If it's between the two of them, Jonah Hill is a better actor and a more charismatic individual.
I just felt like he matched. I felt like Jonah Hill could match the personality of like Michael because he was like a different, like indifferent, like just kind of like, what the fuck, buddy? Like, what are you doing, man? Like, okay, he eventually gets along.
I do like Jonah Hill, like not having any time for Buddy and just his nonsense. I'm just like, what? Come on, man! Like this again.
Come on, we used to have so much fun running around Christmas stores and throwing snowballs. Like, yeah, buddy, I was a kid. I have a job now.
Like, you know what else I like to do? I like to, I don't know. I can't think of something funny.
I like that.
I like to build Legos. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it makes I think of Jonah Hill in like the 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, that kind of performance. And that sounds very fun.
Uh,
So what we were talking about, the child.
so I cast a son,
Okay.
but I almost like the idea of a daughter more. But I did not cast that. But as a son, I had MJ Anthony, who's in Chef. He was in not a lot of notable things, actually.
Well, that's the thing. I like refuse to cast kids anymore.
Yeah.
Unless,
He's like 17. He's 17, so he would be
Oh,
like an older teenager.
he was in Krampus. He's the main character from Krampus, another
Okay.
wonderful Christmas movie.
Yeah.
All right, I support that choice.
He just comes across to me as like a right now. The most recent thing he's done is Council of Dads, which is a show that I watched like 3 episodes of. But he's like very broody. He's like a broody teenager in that show. So that's kind of where I really like it. And he kind of has like the wild Will Ferrell hair. So I would believe him as Will Ferrell's son.
Nice. I didn't cast a kid because I figured it would be like an unknown or a young, because in my idea it was a 10-year-old daughter, so I wasn't sure. I don't even know any kid actors in that age range.
I always just go to Stranger Things. We've talked about this. The only kid, like those are the only kid actors anyone knows, and so like maybe just like an unknown person. But yeah, that work. I mean, that person works as an unknown person because I don't know who they are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's say, and well, that was if he's a son. Then it's MJ Anthony. I had some casting choices for other elves, like the leader of the Cobblers and the leader of the Keeblers.
Okay, let's talk about the Keeblers first.
Okay, so Keeblers, the Keeblers, I had Adam Devine from Workaholics as like the lead Keebler, and having a big aspect of it being like self-esteem issues surrounded by like Keebler elves being like accusing each other of eating cookies. But they're like, no, like I don't eat the cookies. I just don't work out as much as maybe you guys do. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. You put on a few pounds recently. I think you've been sneaking some cookies off the line. I think Adam Devine kind of excels in that sort of humor, like self-deprecating, self-esteem issues.
Yeah.
I also had the idea of James Corden as a Keebler. Just like not necessarily as like the one that talks, just like a background Keebler elf.
Okay, yeah. I actually, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't 100% sure who that was. I had to look him up real quick, but absolutely.
I barely know James Corden. He has that talk show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the singing. Okay, yeah.
For the other elf faction though, the Cobblers, for some reason I even almost thought of this person as a recast for Buddy the Elf if it were to be like an immediate follow-up, but John Mulaney just like screams elf to me, and I love the idea of him being the Cobblers, him being like part of this group that has to justify their own existence. We're like, you have no idea how busy it is around Christmas time. Everyone who has shoes has to get boots, and they don't think about the boots, so they need to get the boots, in the last minute. So we have to be ready to intervene and show up at any store at any time. I think John Mulaney's energy kind of works for that, like very defensive and angry stance.
I like John Mulaney a lot for that. Jim Parsons is the other one that I would suggest. He's actually done, I think, a Buddy the Elf like animated thing.
Who was it?
Jim Parsons, the guy from Sheldon.
Oh, okay.
From
Yeah.
Big Bang Theory. But yeah, I think I like John Mulaney's like fast talking of nobody thinks of boots, but you got to have boots because it's wintertime. And
it really, in my mind, these scenes are just like one-offs. Like he shows up at the Cobblers, and the Cobblers talk about how the big problem is eating the cookies, and then the Keeblers, and then the Cobblers, when he shows up, their big thing is like, nobody thinks about what we do, but we do it, and we're very busy. Just quick scenes. So really anyone Like Jim Parsons, I mean, he totally has the elf look as well. So him showing up even as an elf, I think, is a good idea.
I think if you could do it in any one of these elf, like alternative elf cultures, have like, oh man, have like all of the Lord of the Rings actors,
Oh,
like the hobbits. I don't know why. Like, this is because they were like played short, like hobbits.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even. Why can Elijah Wood?
Elijah Wood. Yeah.
I can't remember Mary Pippin.
Dominic Monaghan.
Monaghan. That's the one that.
Yeah.
I think that would be like really good Easter eggs, like just in the background of all of the different places. You can see like one or two actors in each place that were hobbits in the Lord of the Rings.
Martin Freeman.
Yeah. Oh, he would be good.
Yeah, he'd be good. Like I'd actually like him and John Mulaney, just like like going back and forth with each other.
Yeah. I like. I think I would like that too. Of like, yeah, and then there's Boots. Yeah, nobody thinks about Boots.
Yeah,
and like they're like finishing each other's thought of like both of them really believe the cobblers are super important.
Another actor that I thought about, but I didn't necessarily put in here, but fits kind of the elf vibe, is Ben Schwartz, who plays John Ralphio on Parks and Rec.
I think he would definitely be a South Pole elf. I think the pairing of Aziz Ansari and Ben Schwartz as South Pole elves would be awesome.
Nice. He's Nick. He's an improv comedian, and he actually has an improv show on Netflix. But he also played Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know if that.
That. Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
No, I have not. Ben Schwartz. What show does he have on Netflix?
It's called Middletich and Schwartz. It's it's like a 4-part, 1 hour improv show.
If you watched Space Force,
Space Force.
I couldn't get through Space Force.
Yeah.
Okay, he was like the media relations guy who was always looking at his phone.
Yeah, I didn't get that far. I watched like half of the first episode. We should. I mean, I'll talk about Space Force in the after show.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so we already talked about Aziz Ansari as Hector, and then I think we're done.
Yeah,
I think
that's it.
We like speed ran this episode, so I don't think we have anything left to do besides decide on a title. And honestly, I think Elf 2 is just like, this is a classic Christmas movie, so I think we just go with the classic Elf 2.
Yeah. There's nothing crazy that we could do with the title that wouldn't be overdoing it. Like,
yeah, normally an alternate title will come to me as like the thrust for my pitch, but for this, it really is just Elf 2.
All right, well, I guess please make this movie.
Please make this movie.
Please make this movie.